And just like that, we are live. Hey, how's it going? A special afternoon edition of RCS Live. As always, it is Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here in Connecticut, but joined by Brian and Max from New Zealand. We're international today. How you guys doing?
Good. G'day, Nate. How's it going?
This is so exciting. I'm so excited to have you guys here. This is great. Today, we're going to talk about Aquira2GO's forecaster feature and some of the Aquira2Go sales functionality. And again, thank you guys so much for hanging out today with these guys have a great wealth of knowledge with Aquira, and we thought we were trying to get them in for a couple weeks here. And so thank you for the time. Thanks for the time difference, by the way. That's why we're doing this at 4 o'clock today, Eastern time. And we're really looking forward to this. So I always joke, Max and Brian, that I kick this off with a little housekeeping feature, right? And so, for example, we're always looking for beta users, be it Zeta, G Selector, or Aquira. If you want the latest and greatest features of our RCS products, all you have to do is reach out to your local RCS representative, either support or whoever it is, and we'll put you in touch to get you the latest and greatest features as well. Friendly reminder, don't forget to check your backups, right? Your backups, just a friendly reminder here. Make sure things are working, things are looking good, all of that good stuff. As always, we have our archive here as well. That's over at rcsworks.com/RCS-live. That includes all of our products, Aquira, G Selector, and Zeta. And we have that breakdown for you as well. And a full write-up of all those great features we talked about in our videos as well. And then, of course, Feature Fridays, right? If you want to be part of our Feature Friday, we'll feature you on a Facebook page and all of that good stuff. Just reach us, reach out to us on direct message on social media. You know where to find us by now if you're watching this video. Let us know. We'll get you in touch over there as well. Now, we're broadcasting live on, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Periscope. So, for example, if you want to chime in and ask some questions for Max or Brian, whomever, or just like V, ask away. We're here to help out as well. So as we talk about Aquira2GO's forecasting feature, and we also want to incorporate some of your questions as well. So if you have any questions for Max or Brian or myself, we're here to answer them. No question is too small or too big. Worst case scenario, I've done this in the past. We'll just kind of poke around, and we'll go ahead and answer those questions offline for you as well. So Max was so gracious enough to hang out with us and help answer any questions, but we thought we would kind of wave goodbye to Max for now. He's going to be around answering questions in the background, and Brian and I are going to talk about this forecasting feature. So Max, thank you. Thank you for sticking around. If you have questions for Max, he's here as well. So wave bye to Max for now.
Thanks, mate.
And so we can do here, right? So Brian, it's you and I and Aquira2Go, right? So let's talk a little bit about Aquira2Go, just like Zeta2Go and also Selector2Go. Of course, this is just a true URL, right? No
That's
downloading,
correct.
right? No downloading. We can use Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, Mac, PC, all that good stuff.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, touch compatible, so you can use it on your phone or your tablet, and through basically any modern browser, Chrome, Safari, whatever. So I'm using it here in Chrome right now.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about this forecaster feature as we log into Aquira2Go. So talk a little behind the scenes about what this does.
All right, so I'm logging in as one of my sales reps. The idea of the forecaster is really to allow sales reps and sales managers to easily forecast their revenue, compare their revenue to budget. It's all about pipeline reporting. So any sales rep at any given time is going to have contracts that are in the system, that are running and live on air. And of course, we count the revenue for that in all our revenue reporting. But they're also going to have outstanding proposals that they're waiting for the client to sign off on. And those proposals, the probability of them being accepted could range depending on what the sales rep has proposed to the client. So we give a pipeline reporting of of those proposals and where the rep can expect to see their revenue should they be accepted, or so it just allows us to forecast in a way what the rep's expected revenue will be.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've just jumped into the forecaster here, and currently I'm logged in as a sales rep. So all I'm going to see is my numbers. Now, this may be used by the sales rep, or as I said, it's a useful tool for sales managers, and in particular, in say if they have a weekly meeting with their reps or regular meetings with their sales reps, they can sit down with those reps and go through the forecaster and just look at the numbers and what can expect to be accepted, etc. So first thing we do when we come into the forecaster is we have a filter here that we can select whether we want to start this month, or we're approaching the end of July, so we might want to start our forecasting from August, for example. I'm going to keep it in July for now, and we can choose a number of months, 1 through to 12, to look ahead. Now, I'm going to just select 3 months at the moment, because it's usual, I guess, to look at what you've got in your next 3 months or next quarter of the year in terms of sales.
Here, right? We are
yes,
forecasting.
we are forecasting. Yep. So we want to look at really our next quarter and how we're going to the rep's budget or their targets, and what we can do maybe to get some of those bookings over the line. Now, because I'm a sales rep, this sales rep filter doesn't really have any relevance to me because I don't have the ability to see other reps. I'm hoping I'll get time to log in as a sales manager as well and just show that filtering, but I wanted to show some numbers for the specific sales rep first. I can filter on stations if I wanted to, just to show my revenue for specific stations, or I can filter down to the ledger code or revenue code. At the top, I get a summary in here, and I'll just go through some of those, but I'm going to come back for some features on this later as well. What we've got here under the accepted column, this is all my revenue for the next 3 months that has been accepted, including my budget, which is probably a bit low in comparison to my revenue.
And these numbers, I got you.
Exactly, yes. And then I've got my forecast amount, what happens if everything gets accepted. But we also have a percentage that we can apply to forecaster amounts that is decided or determined by the probability that you select on your proposal. So yes, I did set up a few additional proposals in here yesterday, and it seems to have put me way over, but that's fine. We can see that this rep is performing really well. But compared to their forecast amount, we've got a percentage amount here that is based on the probabilities that I've got on my outstanding proposals that I'm waiting for the client to sign off on. Over the 3 months, this rep has a target of $300,000. If we just come back to 1 month and July,
factored in for you, right? Just like that, yeah.
That's right. So that's flicked back to, for the current month, I'm $827 above my target.
Okay.
But let's jump down into this area here. There's a few other features in the summary area that I'll pop back to shortly, but just to show you how those numbers come together for a start. So we can see at the moment the clients for the sales rep that currently have some forecast amounts against them. I'm showing only my current clients right now that have revenue on them. So this accepted column, this is all the revenue that is currently on air or has been accepted for to go to air in the next 3 months, July, August, September. So it's all been signed off by the client. And then we have anything that's been submitted. So generally this has been signed off by the client, but it's waiting now on our internal approvals. So that will eventually go through to the accepted column. So right now we're reporting the full revenue on this.
And remind me, Brian, that those submitted, those numbers, can't we have, there's some functionality, just to kind of briefly talk about it for 2 seconds. in Aquira2Go, we have some functionality for both the client and the sales rep, right, to get those numbers in Aquira2Go, don't we?
That is correct. So that is through proposals, and
Yeah.
I'm going to jump to that area when I look at the
Perfect. Yeah.
probabilities as well. So the sales rep is able to put their proposal together in Aquira2Go. They can then get the client to sign that off. We have an email signing feature. I know I've covered that on a previous Facebook Live when we talked about remote workflows. So we can send the proposal off to the client to sign it. They're able to sign that through a secure link, and that comes back onto the proposal as an attachment, and everyone gets notified the client has approved that. So all of that can be done by the sales rep within Aquira2Go.
Yeah, some really cool features here on
Yeah,
Aquira2Go. And again, we're
absolutely.
we're looking at this as from the sales rep perspective on Aquira2Go, right? So Maxwell, Matt, and Nicholas, got any questions for Brian or myself? Let us know here. We're here to help out and answer those questions too. So, all right, so we're forecasting. We see our submitted and accepted numbers, and what's next?
All right, so we've got some unsubmitted numbers as well. So again, these are proposals that have been entered into the system. The sales rep is currently working on these with the client. And we look at these by probability. So this isn't necessarily the full amount of these, depending on how confident, I guess, the sales rep is that something is going to be accepted. So for example, and you were asking about it as well, I'm just going to jump into the proposals area so that we can see some of these proposals. And let's just take for example, this JB Entertainment that has $15,000 here unsubmitted.
Okay.
So if we come into our proposals, we can see our proposals by probability. Now, you can see I've got my submitted proposals, my accepted, everything that's running on here currently or in the future. And here we've got JB Entertainment, the proposal that's sitting here for this client at $26,000.
Okay.
Pop into here. Now it's $26,000 through until the end of October. And of course, we're looking at July, August, and September for a start. So we're only getting that portion of it.
Yep.
But at the same time, I've got a probability on here of medium. Now, medium is calculating. You can set your probabilities up. They are definable by you, and we apply a percentage to each one. So if I just put my proposal into edit mode, and ignore the warnings, as all good sales reps do. And if we see here, I've got probabilities of high, medium, low. Now they may be 50%, 75%, and 100% for high. Just to show you those calculations, I'll just jump through to Aquira, and we look at probabilities. So for my medium probability, it's set to a forecaster percentage of 75%. So on the forecaster, we're only seeing 3/4 of that revenue, and that was around $15,000 for those 3 months. So I'm going to change that to a high probability because I want my forecaster numbers to be accurate. I know the client's going to sign, and I'm about to go on and meet with my sales manager. So we'll save that.
Yep, and as you're saving that, that's a really cool feature to note, by the way, because this is, of course, workflows we're talking about for you and your sales staff, and you can kind of define, hey, let me know, like if I'm doing my forecasting, what's the percentage are we looking at, right? And you might be more of a conservative, more aggressive sales manager, and you can define that inside of Aquira, which translates into Aquira2Go. So some cool features there.
Absolutely. So back on the forecaster now, you can see the filter has remembered that I was looking at 3 months. So that's all great. And the forecast percentage and amount that I'm forecasting, I didn't take note of that number beforehand, but that will have increased because if we scroll down now to JB Entertainment and the high priority, I'm seeing all of the revenue for the next 3 months. If I put this out to 4 months,
including October,
you can see that update to the full $26,000 that's on that proposal.
Gotcha.
So we'll go back to 3 months again. So all of these are in with a probability, some of them high, medium, or low, that are based on the percentage. The next step from here for the sales rep, if they've got the signature from the client, would be to submit that proposal.
Okay.
So just so we can see that workflow, I'll go back here. The sales rep is able to submit this through for approval by just entering the proposal and clicking this button. Presumably they've received the acceptance from the client. If they're using our signature function, that will be added as a PDF attachment onto the proposal. So let's submit that.
And again, all of this is remote, by the way.
That's absolutely right. Yep.
On your phone, right?
So a good sales rep never comes into the office, I guess. So they're able to do this on their phone, their tablet, whatever, and submit this through. We do get this screen, which is the start of Aquira's auditing of contracts, because we do save a full contract history for auditing purposes. So from this point on, any changes to this contract are logged, and we'll just save this.
Great.
And that has moved. You can see on my proposal screen, the tile for this this proposal has moved into my submitted area.
And that's great for lockdowns too, by the way, right?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Max.
Definitely. So from this point on, it's gone into the queue for internal approvals. So that might be, it depends on your own internal approval system. The sales manager might need to sign off on it. Finance might need to check it for creditworthiness, and then traffic will usually be that last kind of gatekeeper to let the contract through and go to air. Hopefully this one will go to air very soon, because I did enter it a few days ago, and it started on the 21st of July, which I know for you is yesterday, for me is 2 days ago. Let's come back to the forecaster now. And we can see that JB Entertainment now is sitting under submitted. It's moved from unsubmitted to submitted. If I'd left it with its medium probability, at the time I moved it over into the submitted column, it would have changed to show me the full revenue, because at that point, we know we've got sign off from the client. This revenue, the full revenue for this proposal, is now included in my forecast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, just for 1 second here, I want to point out on the right-hand side between the forecast, last call date, last call type, look at those great pieces of metadata we have from both a sales manager perspective, but also from a sales representative perspective. There's a lot of really useful tools in Aquira2Go in regards to, as a sales representative, when you're on site, looking at where you are. I mean, if you're on the road, we were saying, using Aquira2Go, if let's say you have a couple stops you have to make on your route, you could see this and say, hey, you know what, there's a traffic somewhere here. Ooh, you know what, I never stopped by, whoever the JB Entertainment was. And I can see that based on the last date or whatever it is, that might, say I might go there first in my route or something.
That's correct. And Aquira, as part of our sales tools as well, Aquira2Go also has a meeting planner function that allows you to map out, in a way, your route for the day. So if you've got all of your appointments entered through these calls, and as you can see, my sales rep isn't necessarily doing a lot of calls at the moment, so I haven't maintained that. But you're able to map out your route for the day in the meeting planner. And that's an area, yes, would be good to probably go through in another topic, another chat, because we use Google Maps functionality in there to allow you to plan your route and also see any clients that may be nearby to the ones that you're visiting. But yes, in terms of the metadata we have here, as you've raised it, we've got our call information. So again, remembering that the sales rep was possibly meeting with their sales manager, so we can monitor all of this through here and see how often or what the last reason was that we visited this client. We can also see information about our contract start and end dates, etc. And these last three columns, They are customizable. So I've got 3 different columns here. We use what we call attributes for these. So customizable fields that we've set to be available in the forecast. So you can have as many or as few as you want. Of course, if you're going to have 50 different columns here, that's a lot of scrolling you're going to do. But if I click on any of these clients, we'll go into Big Burgers. That takes me into the client itself. And we can see in our attributes area, which is custom fields and Aquira, we have these attributes or these fields. So let me just change the focus field from retention to growth.
Okay.
And
by the way,
we'll,
go ahead.
yep, no, well, go ahead, Nate.
No, please.
Okay, so if we come back to our forecaster and look at Big Burgers, that's updated now to growth because we've changed that. So this could be during your meeting with your manager, and we're talking specifically about this client. The manager is able to maybe make their own suggestions and add something in here as notes on what we talked about, and the roadmap. What is the plan going forward for this client?
Oh, that's great. So a lot of just, for me personally, I love metadata. I love information. I love it in front of me, knowing what's going on. And from a sales rep perspective, knowing when we're juggling so many clients, right? You can see exactly the layout of what's going on. And imagine you're on the road, right? So if you're on the road, you have your phone, you pot it up, you take a look. Okay, there I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Great. We keep on going. And then of course you were saying beforehand, talking with your sales manager. If you're on the road, you can quickly go, and rather than pull up your laptop and find a cafe or something and do it, you can find your phone, have a conversation with your sales manager, plan out whatever it is, and then talk some numbers and talk some contracts. So there's a lot of great remote functionality here. And as Max said earlier, it's perfect for lockdown.
Absolutely, yes. So while we're on the metadata, we've got a few functions up here to go through to be able to adjust what we can see and manipulate that data. So, for example, if I turn this off, this show probability, you can see now my unsubmitted amounts have gone to the full amounts. So I can toggle in between what the probability percentage says and what I've actually got on these proposals. We can, if you don't want to see the call data, that can be toggled on and off as well as turning off the forecast data and just looking at what the client was doing this time last year and all of this other information.
It's just on off.
Yes, and a couple of really cool features. We've got our expand and collapse buttons. You can see I've got a little option here to expand, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this feature here, if you remember, I'm looking at 3 months. I might want to actually break those months down. So I hit the little split button, and you can see now I've got July, August, and September all laid out with my forecast amounts, my accepted amounts for each month, and down the bottom, the totals.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And down the bottom here, we can also say, right, well, I'm showing a maximum of 20 clients. I could cut that back to 10 or just the usual. And this button here lets me export the data. We can export just some selected rows if we want, or export all of it. Probably looks a bit better if I'd had that set to split, but if we pull this up, it's exported in Excel, and we've got that grid here now so that we can maybe work on it and play around with some numbers in Excel. So if I split that out, and we'll export that out to Excel.
Yep. You can see over there. And by the way, you might notice. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say you can see that that's exported out the view of the grid as it currently is with the split data.
I was going to say, Brian, so the beauty about some of the Aquira2Go workflows is obviously we're talking about sales rep on the road, but that also could mean that you can just work from a different location on a laptop as well, right? That's also a possibility. So we're trying to showcase some of the flexibility of Aquira2Go. And Again, we're actually just, if you're tuning in just now, we're here with Brian and Max from the Aquira team in New Zealand. It's an international RCS live today. This is so cool. I love it. And we're talking about the forecasting feature and some of the great sales functionality of Aquira2Go. We got about a couple minutes left here, Brian, just so you know. And I'm going to warn Max, and I'm going to warn you too, Brian, just so you know. I always like to ask when I have guests on here their favorite tip or trick or feature in Aquira or Aquira2Go. So Max, just be aware, I'm going to put you on the spot in a couple minutes. And again, Nicholas or Matt or Maxwell, if you got questions on here, Brian and myself and Max here to answer them. So if you have any questions, be it on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Periscope, we are here to answer those questions. So, yeah, we're talking about the forecasting feature, Brian. We've covered a lot of metadata here. What's next?
All right, so just continuing on with our forecasting. So sometimes what we're seeing here, as I've mentioned, are just those clients that have revenue against them or proposed revenue. If I hit the current only button, I can see all of my clients. So we can see maybe these clients who don't have revenue. And we can also just turn that off to just look at our last year's revenue. So any client that doesn't have revenue against them, maybe there's a reason. Why haven't we seen them since 2017, for example? And could that go maybe to another rep, or do we need to start working on
new
that?
business, right? New business clients, that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. The other thing is, we do have cases where you've got a client who, they've contracted to revenue, but we're not at the stage that we're ready to put a proposal in. So, but we want to include that in our forecast numbers. So, for example, I'm just going to take Aged Care Village here, because you can see this client, we have no revenue against them. But what say we have a contract with them? We use a function in Aquira called agreements to basically map our contracted revenue. And so I'll just hit add on Aged Care Village, and that lets me set up an agreement for them that perhaps from August this year through until the end of July next year, they've signed up to spend, let's say, $5,000 a month with us. So we'll set that up. And what we need to do is we add in what we call our agreement date values when we do this. And I've got a little wizard here that lets me do this quickly. So I think I said $5,000 a month. And I'm just going to, because my agreement is set up to specify this revenue by station, which you don't have to do, by the way. You can have it just across all stations if you want. I'm going to split this between two of my stations that this rep represents. So we're going to start in August. We're going to do 12 months. Our probability at the moment, let's say that's medium.
I can see that RJ is on Facebook taking notes right now. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Yep, and if we save this, we've now set up, apologies, it has set it up as, $5,000 over the course of that. So let's say over the course of the year, they're going to spend $60,000. And we'll regenerate this as a medium. I'm going to overwrite the existing.
Good to know. That's a great resource.
Yeah, so you can either add in extra, or you can overwrite the existing, and we'll save that. So now we're doing $2,500 a month on Music 101 and $2,500 on Music 333. Now, if the amounts they've contracted to are different per month, you could manually adjust these. I've got a status set here of active, but let's just save this so we can see initially what this does to my forecaster. And we're on a medium priority, remember, so we only get 75% of that revenue showing, and that shows because it's contracted under my medium column. If I expand
versus the unsubmitted
versus unsubmitted, yes. If I expand out my medium column, or my Aged Care Village now, you can see this little arrow has appeared. I can see what I've got here for this client. Split that out.
I was going to say, then as you use those filters in the top right, you can see the forecasting broken down by the time frames defined above in the forecaster.
Yep. All right, so if I want to edit this, at the moment I've got this as a status of active, and we have some clients that want to track whether something was won or lost. So we can change the status. Let's say we won this month.
And elaborate on that, won and lost. What do you mean by won and lost?
All
For
right,
those who are
so
watching?
right now, maybe we've got a case of we expect that this is what we're going to get from the client, but we haven't got a proposal in. So the sales rep is still working on it. So they might have won that. So they've got they're now moving to a stage where they can put a proposal in. Or
Okay.
maybe they've lost it. The client says, no, I'm not going to spend that money this month. At
Yeah.
that point, what we've had is, I guess, in our discussions with sales managers, they want to track when business has been lost. So you might want to select, and these are customizable, the reason that you thought you were going to get this, you didn't get to proposal stage, and you lost the business for whatever reason. The client didn't have the money to spend this month. So we'll set August to loss, but we still won.
They could have moved maybe August to
Yeah,
September or something with
they
COVID moving
could
their
have,
budgets around.
absolutely. So if we save that and come back to our aged care village, you can see that August, we've got a lost business reason of client budget, and it just gives us a little thumbs down to tell us that
Yep.
we've lost that. And September, we've got this as 1. We've put this down to 0 because presumably you've now entered, which obviously I haven't done, but you've entered an
Accepted a
unsubmitted
contract.
proposal.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it would then move from your figures in here into either unsubmitted, submitted, or accepted. So yeah, there's
That's
a
great.
bigger workflow obviously behind that than what I'm showing you, but it's great to be able to do the submitted and unsubmitted workflow. And just as I'm aware, we've just got a couple of minutes left, Nate, I'll just quickly dive into
Go
some
ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
features up the top here. Rather than just logging in as my sales manager, I'm going to show you while I'm still as the sales rep. While we're looking at our forecast amount and the sales rep is forecasting, let's say they're forecasting, I don't know, about $100,000 or something, not this 930. Some of the sales managers we've talked to have wanted a fudge factor where they know that the forecast maybe doesn't necessarily represent the business they know the rep can write.
Okay.
So we've allowed them to have this, what we call a forecaster override. So
Okay.
if I toggle that on, the sales manager is then able to see, well, actually, I believe the rep is forecast to get this amount. So we can just toggle backwards and forwards between the manager's prediction and what we're currently forecasting based on the actual numbers. The other area is this budget itself seems to be a bit low based on what the rep is writing. So
Okay.
we can make changes to that. We can edit that. And let's just say for August, we're actually going to project, let's say 500,000.
Yeah. And we
And if
always
I,
know that happens so often in sales because you talk to verbal communication with somebody and they're like, hey, I'm on vacation. It's July. I'm on vacation for a week, but I'm putting an order in, 2 weeks from now for, a month long, or they have a usual, let's say,
correct.
concert could be back because of COVID. So it could be something else in there as
Yeah,
well. So there's a lot of options of why you would override there. And it's the sales rep obviously knows better because they're the one talking to the client, thus
that's
the
right.
override.
Yes, absolutely. So right now we're also looking at this as a rep view. Now, if I was logged in as my sales manager, this would be a useful tool for me as well, which is what we call the sales view. Now, for the rep, they're just again going to see themselves. But if I'm a sales manager, here's my whole team and my whole team's forecast. I can
Okay.
expand this out and I would see all of my reps in this team, all of their forecasts. And if we dig into each rep, we can see per
Client.
station how much they're
Oh,
writing.
station. Thank you, station.
Yes, per station. But again, if we want to see the per client view, we go back to the rep view where we can have one or multiple reps selected if you're a sales manager.
Yeah.
So the sales manager is not just going to see Aaron, they'll see all the other reps on this team and their forecast revenue as
Yeah.
well.
Right, Mark? Right, Tony? Makes sense. And by the way, it's important to note too here, Brian, that and Max, I'm giving you a 30-second warning here before I throw you back on camera. it's good to know that you can see, obviously, from the desktop Aquira2Go to over on your phone, how you can take this workflow linear, right? You can start, as you were saying, you were exporting some Excel documents, looking at some numbers. You can quickly see those in Aquira2Go. And then if you want to go, then jump on your phone, you can prep on that work as well, so you can see that, right?
Absolutely, yes, yes. So all of it, once it's saved in the system, you've got that on any device, because when you log into the URL, it's all there in the database and will come back to you in real time. So you've got the ability to move between devices.
Absolutely. And shout out to Dawn, by the way, who is our US Aquira specialist as well. She just texted me. She's checking in as well. She loves it.
Hi,
She's great.
Dawn.
It's great. Max, we're going to bring you in here. Hold on a second. Dragging just like that. Okay. So as we're kind of wrapping up here on the forecasting, I'd like to do a last kind of call for questions here. And it's so cool we get to do this. It's the beauty of technology. We're live in New Zealand and here in Connecticut in the States and talking Aquira. I love it. The beauty of Aquira2Go, right? So let's see here. Tony, Mark, RJ, if any of you guys have any questions for Max, Brian, or myself, let us know. And so for Brian, before I cut you off, any last things you want to mention about forecasting before we wrap up here?
No, I think we've covered most of the functionality. So
awesome. Well, yeah, we have so many great things as well. So
yeah, there's a lot more workflows I could go into, but we'll leave it at that for now.
That's why Diane Marketing goes, hey, Nate, can you make these 15 minutes? Like I could, but it's going to be pretty quick. Yeah. So I always like to ask this question. I'll kind of put you on the spot here, Max, as well. What are some of your Aquira or Aquira2Go? You don't have to show it per se, but just things that they can go in the help guide or anywhere that's some workflows. What's a tip, trick, or feature that you love to utilize in Aquira or Aquira2Go that not enough users incorporate in their day-to-day workflows? I'll start with, we'll do Max first here. We'll give you a break here, Brian.
Okay, well, that's great job so far, Brian. Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, you're giving me a hard task there. What's my favorite feature is what I latched onto there.
Yeah.
To my mind, really, it's all about the numbers for me, and always has been. You touched on it earlier, Nate, just the amount of metadata in there. And from my point of view, it's often about what managers are looking for. And as Brian pointed out, this whole process, the whole workflow he just showed you, is designed really to give you some of the richness of that information that's sitting in the system and allow you to use that to work collaboratively with your teams, face to face, sure, but also obviously virtually, and that's been happening a lot in the world recently. But the upshot is, it's the richness of the information, and it's all about the pulse of your business. So, as a manager, you can certainly do an awful lot with the underlying data, and I think the area there to look at is probably mining that information to give you more information about your business and finding out how you can improve yield, sales processes, all that kind of stuff. And we've done all of this work very much in collaboration with our customers. So you can see a lot of this has been done, looking at how sales teams and sales people work together and trying to put that in such a way that they can utilize the data that's sitting in the system to improve and assist with their processes. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a particular feature I would show or a tip I would show. I'm just generally speaking, I think that's one of the biggest strengths of the system is the richness of the data and how it helps people to do their sales operations.
So well said, because you mentioned, by the way, just the data alone, but you also touched on it's how you interpret that data. Remember, we were talking about the forecasting, the medium, the high, the low. You set those percentages on there. Brian was also talking about some of those customizable attributes as well. So sometimes it's not just about the metadata, it's how you as a sales manager interpret that metadata and then propel that to your sales staff and have them include that in there. So great point. Brian, how about you?
Certainly eliminate spreadsheets, which is what people used to do.
Yeah. Brian, how about you? What's a great tip, trick, or feature that you love?
Well, I don't think I can top Max there on the richness of the data, and I agree with everything he said. I love the forecaster and what we've done in here. I think it's very powerful. Also, I think just the flexibility. You mentioned the custom attributes of being able to set Aquira up for your business and store the data that's important to you for your reporting. But I'm also, in terms of features, we mentioned the meeting planner briefly. I think the meeting planner and our other CRM functionality, the integration with Google Maps, that's great features for sales. I'm also going to give a shout out to some of our audience features like the GRP work or the GRP stuff that is used in Scandinavia, and the ability with that functionality to optimize your spots, and of course the importance of being able to sell to audience. But we have some great audience features for reach and frequency for different audience providers around the world, and it's more and more important, I think, these days to be able to track your sales and your performance of your bookings against audience. So that's an area that I guess I'm particularly passionate about, and love what we've done in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, we haven't really internally, we touched on this a lot, but just you kind of skimmed over very quickly. Maybe this will be a teaser for a possible future RCS live. But the Google, go on about the Google and the CRMs, right?
Yeah, so again, with the Aquira2GO and just that ability to for the sales reps to log in and do their work, we have the integration through with Google Maps, where anybody here that you can see who's got a little pin down here, we know their address, and we've got basically their geolocation, I guess, and we can look and see where that client is. Now, this one's actually a long way from where I am here over in New Zealand, and we can locate that client somewhere in wherever that location is. So that's great functionality. And as I mentioned with the meeting planner itself, if I had something set up for this client, I could map out my calls for the day and plan my route, and also see which clients are nearby to that. Again, maybe a teaser for something else when I've got some data set up in here with different calls. As we noted from the forecaster, this rep's been a bit lazy with that lately, so we need to just set up some appointments for him to go out and see a few people.
That's great. So this is so cool. So again, to summarize, Aquira2GO talking about forecasting, sales functionality over here, a lot of great tools, and as Max put it so well, a lot of metadata here, right? A lot of metadata that's customizable for both you and your sales manager as well. So Max, Brian, thank you so much for spending time with us today, all the way from New Zealand. This is so cool. I love doing this. I love getting to talk to you guys. And thank you for spending the time and hanging out with us. Really do appreciate it.
You're welcome, Nate. Pleasure.
And that just means that now that we know we can do it, we're going to have you on more often, right, Brian?
Sure thing. Yep.
We look forward to it, Nate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you again. Oh, I was going to say next week, but I got to go have a baby. So I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks for RCS Live. So yeah, there's my little teaser for you. Hey, listen, have a fantastic day. We'll see you when we see you. Don't forget the archive over at rcsworks.com/RCS-live, and have a great one. Bye-bye, everybody.